Did you ever stop and wonder what really happens behind the gilded doors of the world's richest parties? The ones hidden in plain sight, where the glittering champagne masks whispers of betrayal, and every smile hides a secret? Picture this: the sun setting over the Mediterranean, the sea turning gold, a private yacht anchored just off Monaco, glittering under the last rays of light. The perfect scene, right? Except this night wasn't about relaxation or glamour. It was about secrets. Deep, dangerous, and scandalous secrets that no one thought would ever escape the shadows. And yet, one person, one woman, stood at the center of it all. Meghan Markle. Yes, the same Meghan Markle who has been scrutinized by tabloids, paparazzi, and even the palace itself. But this time, the story goes far beyond Hollywood gossip or royal protocols. This time, the stakes were higher, and the consequences? Potentially catastrophic. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. The bombshell came from the most unexpected source, the Saudi Crown Prince. Someone with access, authority, and insight that even the British tabloids could never dream of. And when he spoke, the world paused. Because what he revealed wasn't just a rumor, a whisper, or a leak. It was a confirmation. Confirmation of events that had been swirling in the shadows. Events that could alter Meghan's public image, shake the monarchy, and send shockwaves through elite circles around the globe. He didn't just hint. He named names, places, and even hinted at acts that most people would consider unthinkable. Before we dive into the specifics, let's set the scene properly. Imagine a yacht not just as a boat, but as a floating kingdom. A palace on water. Sleek, lavish, and guarded with a level of security that seems almost absurd, even for billionaires. Every detail curated. The polished teak decks, crystal chandeliers reflecting the sun, rare wines chilled to perfection, and staff who move silently. Their presence almost invisible, but absolutely essential. On this night, Meghan wasn't just a guest. She was a star in a high-stakes game of power, charm, and influence. Every laugh, every glance, every handshake mattered. Because behind the smiles and the sparkling dresses, fortunes were at stake. Reputations hung in the balance, and one small act, one misstep, could change everything. Now, here's where it gets truly fascinating. This wasn't just a social gathering or a celebrity playdate. There were whispers, quiet, almost imperceptible, that suggested the night was about much more than drinks and parties. VIP guests, some so powerful their names alone can make markets shift, were present. And Meghan? According to sources, she was no mere observer. She was central, strategic, a player with more at stake than most could ever imagine. Some say she navigated the room like a chess master, every word and smile calculated to leave an impression, to secure connections, to position herself in a way that could redefine her life entirely. And if that sounds dramatic, it's because it is. But it's also exactly what happened. And then, the unthinkable. Among the whispers of networking, deals, and social maneuvering, a more dangerous story began to surface. A story about a diamond. Not just any diamond, the kind of jewel that is priceless, with history threaded into the very crown of the monarchy. A gem that had been considered untouchable, a symbol of power, wealth, and prestige. And yet, according to multiple insider accounts, it vanished. How? Where? And, most importantly, was Meghan involved? That's the question that would ignite rumors, speculation, and ultimately, confirmation from a source nobody expected, the Saudi Crown Prince. Now, pause for a moment. Take it in. Meghan Markle. Yacht. Diamond. Saudi Crown Prince. It almost reads like fiction, doesn't it? And yet, as you'll see in this story, truth is often far stranger, more dramatic, and more dangerous than anything Hollywood could script. This isn't gossip. This isn't rumor. This is a chain of events, carefully traced, with people, dates, and places that can be corroborated. And every detail leads to a bigger question. How does someone navigate power at this level without crossing lines that, if exposed, could destroy everything they've built? Let's be clear about why this story matters now. The palace is not just a family residence. It's an institution built over centuries, meticulously preserved, and fiercely protected. Any scandal involving the royal family is not just a personal embarrassment. It's a threat to centuries of legacy, reputation, and influence. When the Saudi crown prince confirms details about events on a yacht, it's not just tabloids that take notice. It's governments, media outlets, and millions of people around the world. And in Meghan's case, the implications are enormous. Every rumor previously dismissed as Hollywood exaggeration now demands scrutiny, because there's a voice of authority backing up claims no one dared to validate before. But let's circle back to the human side of this story. Behind the yachts, the diamonds, the crown prince statements, there's a person making choices, taking risks, and navigating worlds few of us can even imagine. Meghan Markle's life has always been under intense scrutiny. First as an actress, then as a duchess, and now as a global figure under constant observation. Yet, despite all the cameras, all the media, and all the rumors, she continues to maneuver in a world that is both alluring and perilous. How do you maintain composure when every move is analyzed, when every smile is dissected, and when one misstep could be amplified across continents? How do you reconcile ambition, opportunity, and morality when power and temptation collide? And this is where the story truly begins. Because while the headlines will focus on glamour, scandal, or betrayal, there's an intricate web of events, choices, and consequences that most people will never see. It's about strategy. It's about survival. It's about the lengths someone will go to achieve a goal, and the lines they're willing to cross when the stakes are high enough. And while many of us think of Meghan Markle as a single individual navigating fame, we have to consider the broader network, the advisors, the friends, the critics, the royals, and yes, the Saudi crown prince. Every one of them plays a role in shaping events, controlling narratives, and determining who ultimately comes out on top. So, here's the question you need to ask yourself. If a crown prince reveals what happened on a yacht and hints at the theft of a royal diamond, can the story really end without repercussions? Or is this only the first chapter in a saga that will unravel across headlines, social media, and royal history books for years to come? And while we will dive into every twist, turn, and revelation, one thing is already clear. This isn't just a story about Meghan Markle. It's about power, opportunity, betrayal, and the shocking consequences when ambition meets audacity. And just when you think you have it all figured out, remember this. The crown prince didn't just hint at what happened. He provided details so precise, so revealing, that even those closest to the events were forced to pause. Details about a diamond, about who was present, about actions taken that no one expected. Details that could confirm, for the first time, the whispers that have circled in secrecy for months, or even years. The question isn't whether the story is true. The question is, how much of it can survive exposure? How many reputations, alliances, and lives will be affected when the public finally pieces it all together? And that's where we leave the introduction, with a lingering, burning question. What exactly did the crown prince reveal? What happened on that yacht, in that golden moment of opulence, that could change everything? And more importantly, what happens next, now that secrets that were meant to stay buried have surfaced in the light of day? Because this story doesn't end here. No, it's only beginning. And what comes next will change everything, and no one saw it coming. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to be at the center of a storm you didn't even see coming? To stand on the deck of a yacht while the sun sets over the Mediterranean, the sky painted gold and crimson, and know that every smile you give, every laugh you share, could be observed, analyzed, and dissected by people whose influence stretches from Hollywood to Buckingham Palace? That was the night. The yacht wasn't just a vessel. It was a floating stage, and Meghan Markle was the leading act. The yacht itself was a masterpiece of opulence. Crystal clear waters lapped against its hull, the polished teak deck glinting as if it had been kissed by sunlight itself. Chandeliers sparkled under the warm glow of evening lamps, while soft music drifted across the deck, blending seamlessly with the hum of engines and the distant chatter of luxury yachts moored nearby. But don't be fooled. This wasn't a simple pleasure cruise. Every detail had been orchestrated for a purpose. Every guest had been selected, every seat assigned, every glass of champagne poured with intention. Meghan arrived in a manner befitting royalty. Not the crown-adorned kind, but the Hollywood meets monarchy kind. A carefully curated appearance designed to dazzle, but also to disarm. Her entrance was quiet, elegant, yet impossible to ignore. She smiled, waved, and moved with a fluidity that suggested she belonged in rooms far beyond the yacht itself. But this night wasn't about belonging. It was about influence, power, control. The guests were extraordinary. Names that could change industries with a single signature were on the invite list. Business magnates, influential politicians, famous actors, people whose wealth and reach made everyday headlines seem trivial. And yet, amidst all this power, there was an undercurrent of tension. People were not just networking, they were observing, calculating, measuring. Every handshake was analyzed, every glance dissected, every joke assessed for hidden meaning. And in the middle of it all was Meghan. Was she nervous? Possibly. Was she calculating? Almost certainly. Every move, every laugh, every tilt of her head seemed choreographed, even if instinctively so. Observers noted that she was not merely present. She was commanding attention without demanding it. That is a rare skill, the kind that separates someone who survives these circles from someone who burns out. But here's where the tension begins. Because the yacht, no matter how secure, was not immune to secrets. There were whispers, almost imperceptible, of meetings behind closed doors, conversations conducted in hushed tones, documents exchanged, and glances shared that spoke volumes. People didn't just come to this yacht for drinks. They came to forge connections, make deals, and sometimes make enemies. And Meghan was at the center, a fulcrum around which alliances shifted. Then came the incident, not immediately apparent. Nothing that could be pinned down in a single moment. But those with sharp eyes, the insiders who had been watching for years, sensed it. A disturbance, a subtle shift in energy that was almost invisible to the untrained eye. A door left slightly ajar. A figure moving just outside the main deck, shadowed against the setting sun. And then, a quiet murmur among the staff. A conversation cut short, hurried glances exchanged, and attention that had not been there before. It is important to understand the psychology of such events. In rooms filled with power, the smallest anomaly is magnified exponentially. A misplaced object, a whisper, a glance. Any of these can trigger reactions that ripple across the room, the yacht, even the larger network of influence connected to the guests. And on this night, every ripple counted. Because hidden beneath the glittering surface of opulence, there was a game being played, and the stakes were higher than anyone realized. Now, here's where the story gets more complicated. Guests reported seeing Meghan engage in what appeared to be casual conversation, yet the intensity in her eyes suggested she was measuring more than words. She was mapping alliances, identifying weaknesses, testing loyalties. Every laugh seemed calculated, every gesture deliberate. Observers later described it as a performance, one that walked the fine line between charm and manipulation. And it worked. She held attention without appearing to try. She influenced without force. And yet, in the shadows, others were taking note, not all of them with friendly intentions. Security on the yacht was supposed to be tight, impenetrable. Cameras monitored nearly every inch of the vessel. Guards positioned discreetly, yet strategically, ensured that nothing went unnoticed. Yet, as later revelations would show, even the most sophisticated security systems cannot account for human unpredictability. There were movements that escaped notice, actions that would later be dissected frame by frame, and choices that, in hindsight, seemed deliberate. The question becomes, was this preparation, or was it instinct? And then, the diamond. A piece so valuable, so historic, that its presence alone was enough to change the atmosphere. Not just any diamond. This was a jewel with ties to the monarchy, a gem whose value extends far beyond money. Symbolically, it represented prestige, legacy, and trust. It was meant to be untouchable, and yet, it became the focal point of attention in ways that no one could have anticipated. Some witnesses claim that Meghan's proximity to the diamond was purely coincidental. Others say it was intentional. The truth is layered, elusive, and highly contested, but it is undeniable that something shifted that night, something that set off a chain of events still reverberating months later. Here's the thing. Yachts like this are designed to impress, to create an illusion of ease and luxury. But they also reveal character. The confined space, the constant scrutiny, and the high stakes mean that even minor cracks in composure are magnified. And Meghan, observers noted, was under scrutiny at a level few people could endure. Yet she navigated it with skill, charm, even audacity. Every step was a signal. Every laugh, a message. Every glance, a test. She was not just part of the night. She was shaping it. And shaping it is exactly what she did, though perhaps not in ways that anyone else realized at the time. Because as whispers grew, and as movements became more noticeable, a pattern emerged. Observers later described it as methodical, almost surgical. Meghan seemed to know where to position herself, whom to speak to, and when to retreat. She understood the psychology of the room, the leverage of subtle influence, and the power of perception. Every interaction became a tool, a strategic play in a game far larger than most could imagine.